Welcome to Night Shadows. I'm Stewart Best, where the paranormal is normal, where that which you thought you knew, you didn't, and where the future can be known if you know exactly where to look.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll have to apologize in advance if I get into a coughing jag. Still fighting this, still getting fever in the evenings. Seems to be no end to it. Hi, Larry. How are you doing?
Hey, Stewart. Thanks for having me. Glad you're feeling a little bit better.
Yeah, this is the strangest stuff I've ever had, I think. Where do you want to start? Let's go with this FISA memo. What's your take on that? I got some comments I'd like to make later, but what's your comment on it?
Well, my initial comment is, after hearing the Democrats and the FBI and the DOJ and everybody slamming Nunes for actually putting this memo out and trying to make it public because they were concerned about secrets that were going to be revealed and national security, it's just absolutely laughable what I've been hearing out of all of them the last number of days. Of course, today, Donald Trump declassified the memo, sent it back to the committee, and Nunes, the committee, put it out to the public. And the only thing that it really reveals is really who the troublemakers are.
Well, that's what I thought. I mean, it kind of named some names, and now the Democrats, of course, are going to claim that the whole thing was made up anyway, and they've got the real truth, and on and on and on it goes. The land of the division, a house divided cannot stand, and this is just going to serve to further that, I guess. I really do feel, though, that this has been going on for a long, long time. This is not new stuff. It may be new that they got caught more or less red-handed in trying to derail Trump, but we know from long ago, they talk about the weaponization of the FBI and the weaponization of Homeland Security and the Justice Department, et cetera, et cetera. They've been weaponized for I don't know how long. We got a real good taste of weaponization of a federal agency at the Ruby Ridge situation with Randy Weaver. It was all set up, all proven now for political purposes. Well, that's weaponization, to the point where they even killed Randy's wife. Did the agent who assassinated or murdered, cold-blooded murder actually, get anything for doing that other than I think he got promoted. And
what's interesting?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to mention, let's not forget Waco. It's pretty interesting that the federal government sent tanks against a pedophile, apparently.
Well, that's it. And that was political as well. In fact, I watched part of the Waco show that they did, I think it was last night or the night before. And there was a lot of dissension within the FBI and the Justice Department. But overwhelming kill was the prevailing theory. You go in there with overwhelming force, which they did, of course. And but the point is that even with they get promoted. These people that do these things get promoted, and it's categorically wrong to do that. In fact, in the Ruby Ridge situation, the guy that murdered the woman was, according to what I found out later, had violated all kinds of FBI protocols. But what I'm getting at is they weaponize things all the time. Oklahoma City was a weaponized attack. All of these things, and of course, the general public cannot believe that our federal agencies are so corrupt that they would do this kind of stuff, but they do it all the time. Look at the IRS under Clinton and Obama, where they were just using the IRS as a weapon against all kinds of conservative people. So this is not new. And the only thing that may be new is they stirred up a little more interest of the general population, which evidently is so comatose it doesn't realize that this has been going on for practically probably centuries when you really go down and look into it. This is typical government parties waging war against each other. And anyway, it was kind of surprising. They did release it, and I think it did name names as to who the culprits were. But I've noticed an absence, except for Donald Trump himself, and I think one other commentator. They're not mentioning Hillary Clinton, and they're not mentioning Obama. It's like they don't have a part in this, when in fact, Obama and Hillary Clinton are the very foundation of all of it. Why aren't they being mentioned?
Yeah, you have to, just exactly what you said. Under Obama, the IRS became weaponized. A whole lot of agencies became weaponized against the conservatives and against the Christians and the Jews. And that's just the way it was. We spent 8 years of hell under Obama putting up with him building this huge force, governmental force, a political force, and really kind of implement, if you will, his communist coup. And what's interesting, you mentioned the only one that so far has come out and really said anything, it was Donald Trump. You got to remember, he's not the only one in Washington in the swamp that has a mouth anymore. Nobody else has got the guts to talk hardly. And, we're even finding people like Trey Gowdy beginning to leave. And we'll have to watch him a little bit. I'm interested in where he's going. And at the same time, though, what we don't want to leave out, because comatose America really does need to open at least one eye and use half sense and figure something out. But under 8 years of Obama weaponized mainstream media. There's
yes,
a media from hell now. They are literally nothing but assassins, media assassins. That is exactly what they are, and I call them the bastard arm of the Communist Party, and I don't think anybody can dispute that very much.
Oh, no, absolutely. That's what they are. They are the media arm of the Communist Party now. And that's another thing you don't ever hear them say, that this is a communist coup. Nobody wants to use that phraseology. But, yeah, they've been weaponizing for a long time. I remember under Clinton, I suffered from the weaponization of the FBI and not Homeland Security, I don't think, at that time, but Justice Department.
Well, you certainly, under Clinton, you certainly suffered under the Southern Poverty Law Center, and they're disparaging you daily.
Oh, yes. Yeah, they attacked me big time, but I remember the non-existent black helicopters coming over the house. I remember them dropping balloon bombs in a field right across the road so we could watch and see how, we were going to be taken out, I suppose. And that was all because I released a report from Iron Mountain. And that wasn't even a classified report. That was found in a government library and just named as a government document. And yet, because of that release, they came down on us on all 4 feet, trying to intimidate, harass. They even had what I would call sniper squad, but I caught them, and so they left. But if it hadn't been for the Holy Spirit telling me to go outside and take a look at what was going on around me, I might not even be here today. So this is the weaponization of it's political. That's all it is.
Yeah, and what's so interesting, Stewart, when you did Project Red Star, that's when you started being attacked by UFOs.
Yes. The whole thing is ridiculous. They try to intimidate. They don't want the real truth out there. I don't think Donald could stop anything that's going on. He can delay it, but it's going to be up to the Lord himself to weave the way for Donald Trump to do what he's supposed to do. And I do remember that vision of that fellow who said that Trump had compromised himself and wasn't sure just exactly how far the Lord was going to go with it. So he's between a rock and a hard place. If he doesn't play ball with the deep state, they assassinate him. And if he doesn't play ball with the Lord and do what he's told, he probably likewise, it's going to be done in. So he's really in a lot of trouble when you're up against serving Satan or serving the Lord. And I think he's still serving the Lord myself, though. Even though he may be compromised a bit, he's still attempting to expose all this. He's still attempting to reveal the great revealer of all the corruption that we're watching. And now the American people, because of all the interest in this, have really basically no excuse, even if they were not aware of the weaponization and they've been dossiering everybody for years. I don't know why that's such a big surprise. There was a congressman, I think it was 2-3 years ago, said he was shocked at all the information they had collected on him personally. They didn't have a warrant. They don't bother with warrants. So this stuff has been going on, and I'm sure you're well aware of it as a police officer, that there's been some shenanigans going on for a long time. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. The only thing I think that, and what is so shocking, if you'll remember, almost the only one on the planet that thought Donald Trump was going to be president before the campaign, during the campaign, and even up to the inauguration, the only one who believed it was Donald Trump.
I know, yeah. Well, that's Schulerized. Bob Schuler, the positive thinker. He really took it to heart. And there's a lot of truth in what they say. It's just mixed with a lot of error as well. But I think Donald really takes this stuff to heart. His family says, tell him it's impossible, and he'll go do it just to prove to you that it wasn't impossible. And I don't think he realized, in fact, I think one of his family members said so, that he did not realize just how deep and nasty and vile and corrupt deep state really was. But he's not turning around.
Yeah, he's finding out, Stewart. He's finding out, and he is taking a stand because everybody basically has advised him not to release that memo, and he did it. He declassified it and released it anyway. And there is reportedly more going to be coming out, and that's. I had a show with Augusto Perez today, and he is very concerned about a false flag or something to take away from this exposure, of the Democratic Party and the deep state and et cetera. But Franklin Graham came out yesterday, and as a matter of fact, Skywatch TV posted it, and he was warning of the saboteurs and the deeper state coup d'etat against President Trump that was in progress, and he said now this will cause violence and more force from their side, because he said they have to either surrender or they have to respond with overwhelming force.
Yeah, this thing is being pushed to the point where it's getting really, really dangerous. Now we got the Super Bowl coming up. What did Augusto think about any possibility that they might pull something on the Super Bowl at all?
Well, he was very concerned, and he warned the people. He said, I don't think I would even go. He said, and matter of fact, and I told him that I'd seen a report this morning from Black Lives Matter groups that were telling their people to stay away from that. So it's a possible indicator that there might be trouble. But Augusto was saying that he said that he expected almost anything quickly because he said they've got to take the people's attention in the media away from this memo and what's coming out with it. And he said the only way to do that is cause a disruption somewhere that'll overwhelm the news.
Well, it's good that the American people, if they're paying any attention to it, know that this sort of stuff is going on now. So I guess it does have an awakening effect. However, like you were just saying, an awakening effect may make the deep state move much quicker to do something, or at least try to do something. And I want to read part of this. Who would benefit from the killing of 100 plus Republican members of Congress? Confirmed. I don't know how you vet this, so it's not vetted, and it may be just baloney. But there's something very strange about this. Congressmen aboard the train were supposed to be in session. They were not supposed to be headed for a resort that doubles as a doomsday COG facility. Now, I have personally been there at Greenbrier more than once, and yes, it does have a COG. It did years and years and years ago when I was there, when I was flying for General Electric. They have a deep underground, I guess you could almost call it dumb, like the military type things. Anyway, adding to the credibility of the theory that they were fleeing a threat is the fact that they had family members aboard the train, including children that should have been in school. They received death threats over the memo and were heading to a safe place when they were stopped by a staged accident. Okay, now here's the story, which is now 100% confirmed. Well, they don't confirm it, so I don't know. A majority of Republican congressmen who voted to release a FISA memo, which exposed the enormous amount of deep state corruption, were on an escorted train that they were supposed to be in session when all roads were closed ahead of the train for security reasons, and not only that, the train had helicopter escorts. Okay, now, they closed all the roads ahead of this. They had security on board. They had medical people on board. It hits a garbage truck, which to me was very symbolic of what the deep state would think of the Republicans, that they're garbage. But anyway, the train was going 70 miles an hour, they say. But it did not derail. Only the front part of the front engine derailed, which was really amazing because an accident like that probably would have derailed the entire train and maybe killed a whole bunch of congressmen. It just seems to, I don't know, maybe it's just a conspiratorial mind. What do you think about that? It just seemed funny. I mean, what's a garbage truck doing on a crossing?
Yeah, it kind of reminds you of a false flag, or it would really make a good conspiratorial theory movie. It would make a really great movie sometime. But, you know, we do know, though, we have to remember that the Lord has his hands in some of the activities going on, and he certainly has his provisions for preventing disasters also. Now, not that he will every day, but that was a very anomalous situation. It really was. I couldn't believe when I saw what was going on.
Yeah, it just didn't, none of it rang true, especially if they had all the roads closed. What's a garbage truck doing then on across a railroad track? It wouldn't have been allowed. That almost seems like it had to be staged. And, of course, if they had derailed the train at that speed, heaven knows how many people would have been killed. And it seemed odd to me that they were headed down towards continuity of government down at White Sulphur Springs, Greenbrier. So kind of weird, and I'm not telling anybody to believe that. Dow Jones closed. No, I don't know what to think about this. I want your opinion on it. But it says the Dow closed minus 666 on the same day that the memo is released. Are we being told something by the elite?
Well, I'll tell you, I was watching Fox Business because, I watch that sometimes because they'll give news on there that the regular Fox channel won't. And they brought that up this evening about this drop after the memo was released, this drop of the markets, which they did not expect. And when I saw that 666 points going down, I thought, wow, that sounds like a message. And this would be very possibly a message to the Republicans and the president himself. If you continue this way, the bottom may drop out of the stock market. We'll bring it down.
Which they can do. They can do it anytime they want. And we do have that reset. Donald Trump even said there was coming a reset. And but this number's dropping it down, 666. I agree with you. I think 100%. This is a message that, you can screw with deep state all you want, Donald, but at the end, we hold the reins. And there's nothing you can do about it. And we know from biblical prophecy that deep state takes over, basically. So, anyway, the headlines on Drudge, that was kind of interesting. Trump attacks the integrity of the FBI and the Justice Department, which I don't think he did. He attacked the integrity of the leadership.
Yeah.
Isn't that the way you took it?
Yeah, that's the way it is. Of course, those Drudge headlines, that was headlines from other groups, which that was the Dems, the Democrats and the deep state. That was their point of view, and Drudge is really good, and I'm very concerned. I saw a number of posts this morning, and matter of fact, when I started trying to post Drudge and other things, my internet slowed to almost zero. I had glitches all day, and there was reports coming out warning that after this memo, if it was released, that through the weekend, that the deep state would cause disruptions with Google and Twitter and Facebook, etc., and the internet, and cause problems to try to censor all of this data and keep it from the public.
Yeah. Getting on to Earth changes. What's this deal about the magnetic pole shift? Could happen anytime.
Well, more and more that's coming out. Yeah, not only is NASA saying that is a very real threat. Matter of fact, let me read the headline. It was on Yahoo the other day. It says, Earth's magnetic poles show signs they are about to flip, exposing humans to massive radiation and planet-wide blackouts. And as a matter of fact, the very next day after I posted that, Stan Deyo had it up at a headline, and he actually posted, this is very serious, and we need to pay attention and watch. And so people need to be prepared. I had glitches all day up here today, electromagnetic glitches. And, of course, I'm in a place where I get it first. Whatever kind of weird stuff happens, I get it first. And so, there is something going on with the electromagnetic field. It really is. And if Stan says to watch, then we do need to keep an eye out for some of this activity. And there again, that supports you and I warning people to have water, have some food, have a radio that's functional, communication device. Have your family plans ready. And people need to be more aware. This could happen anytime. Maybe days, maybe weeks. We don't know, months, but we need to be aware.
Yeah, I think if you read the Book of the Ancients, the comments that they've made throughout the centuries, that when this thing occurs, it occurs fairly rapidly once it finally goes, and not necessarily a very, helpful thing for humanity. And usually a magnetic shift precedes a real pole shift. So we're probably looking at both coming up. Another headline here on California. California rapidly plunging back into drought. Severe conditions now existing in Santa Barbara, Ventura, Los Angeles counties, home to 1/4 of the state's population. And it's increased rapidly from 13% a week ago to 44% now. Well, this reminds me of Jeremiah because there's drought spreading all over the United States. And Jeremiah's prophecy is that a major drought will take place in America and dry up the rivers, the lakes, the streams, the springs. So hopefully we're not looking at that, but the time seems to be about right. What else you got before we shut down?
I was just going to mention what dovetails into what you just talked about. You know, California provides lots of food for the country, but what we're seeing, we saw an early freeze that has been massively cold across this nation. We've got another Arctic polar vortex coming down into the U.S. this weekend. And, of course, you know, the groundhog, they say, saw his shadow, so 6 more months of winter. You know, this is not good for crops.
No. Well, the groundhog, you know, he seems to be more honest than what comes out of Washington, so maybe we should listen
that's
up.
That's what I am. I'm a groundhog.
So, anyway, it is what it is, folks, and things are moving fast. I'm a little bit concerned over the coming Super Bowl. It is in Minneapolis. Remember the Sum of All Fears? The movie?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, you know, sometimes those movies are very prophetic. Hopefully not, but you know, that was a really nasty movie actually, with what happened. But anyway, anything else you got? Quick.
Well, I was just going to tell people there was a report on Fox News today. Someone said keep that seatbelt buckled this weekend. And so I would tell people, just don't unbuckle it. Just leave it buckled and watch this weekend and be safe.
Yeah, it's we're moving into a very dangerous period of time, folks, because of deep state, and they got to do something, or give up, or fold up. And I don't see them folding up. Not after spending as much time as they have and the billions of dollars they have invested in this one world order that they want so desperately to have. So I would expect, we're gonna see something. Thanks again, Larry, for coming on. It's just weird, all this stuff that's going on, and especially that train accident. I would, maybe it's conspiratorial mind, but there was something wrong there. And I think there's something wrong with this whole picture, and I'm a little bit concerned. It's all diversionary tactics. They're never really going to tell you the deep, deep corruption that's going on, any more than they'll tell you that this is a communist coup and that the New World Order and Masonry has got all this figured out. So all we can do is watch and be ready, be prepared. And I know people want to have the rapture take place, and there's no telling when that's going to happen. But we are in that pivot year, aren't we, Larry? The pivot year, 2018 and 2017. We're in it, so it could happen anytime. What do you think?
Well, I think it's really interesting, and maybe we'll have more data next week. But we're right in the pivot point, and that pivot is occurring.
Yes. Okay, folks. Well, thanks for tuning in. Sorry to only do 30 minutes, but I'll try and do better next week. And take care, everyone. Thanks for listening. Good night now.